Easy. 45 seconds, I think. Crenshaw. Is he a senator or house member?
Who?
Crenshaw, the guy with the eye patch.
Oh, he's a House member.
House member.
Dan Crenshaw.
Where's he from?
Texas,
Texas.
of course.
Texas House member. Representative Crenshaw. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, let's do Trump's second segment or something. And then Casey remind me about Sportsman's. I'll pull it up now.
It's time for Gun Radio Utah. No apologies. A show dedicated to preserving and protecting your constitutional right to bear arms for your security and sport. Here's your host, well-known gun rights advocate and chairman of the Utah Shooting Sports Council, Clark Aposian.
I mostly wanted to talk about new guns today, but we're going to talk about, we might get into some new guns today.
Are
Welcome.
there new guns out
What?
there? Are there new guns out there?
There's always new guns.
Well, I don't
military style.
know. Ooh, assault rifle. Is there an actual assault rifle now?
Well, there has always been assault rifles, but anyway.
No, like a legit,
Yeah.
not an Armalite rifle.
Welcome to Gun Radio Utah. I'm your host, Clark Aposian. Sitting across from me, Casey Jane.
Hey.
And
Sitting in-
Doran is on the video.
I'm
If you want to
sitting in
watch
Bill's
us.
spot.
What? Now you overtalk me.
Yeah,
Talked me.
yeah,
You
yeah.
overspoke me. So Bill. Well, okay. Since you went there,
Yeah, I
Bill is he
Demoted.
shooting things?
I think so. He said it was
He's
hunting
hiking and
season.
shooting. I
Yeah.
think. So
in the Uintas, probably.
in the Uintas.
Yeah.
Uintas. And Doran is on video today. Doran, you can find us. How do you find us on YouTube? Gun Radio Utah. Go to YouTube Live and you can see.
Or through Facebook.
Or do
You
Facebook
can link
or any of
from
that
Facebook
stuff.
into YouTube.
And Brad is in the studio. Brad is waving his hand and you can't see him. But if you want to talk to Brad, if you want
Eliza.
to talk to us, you got to go through Brad. 888-570-8010. 888-570-8010. We're here to talk about guns, gun laws, gun things, guns in the news, firearms, shooting, ammunition. Oh, I had an interesting thing this last week, too.
Oh, yeah?
That we'll talk about.
Ooh.
But anyways, if you want to, you can get a hold of us at 888-570-8010. Just tell Brad your name. You can make it up. I'll know if you made it up. I can just
like
tell.
Skittles.
Yeah, Skittles.
My radio name used to be Skittles.
And get to your point quick because we have lots to talk about.
Oh,
but
good.
some people know I'm chairman of the Utah Shooting Sports Council. And as such, I get a lot of phone calls from folks that have sometimes odd requests.
Oh, yeah?
And sometimes telling me to do things, that I'm certainly not going to do that. And I hang up on them anyway. But I got a call from, and I can't give too much information. And the sad thing is because it's a case that is in play right now, I can't even give the outcome. But I was hired to go to an office, a legal defender's office, and bring a bunch of 9mm handguns and lots of different kind of 9mm ammunition, which I had to make inert because, yes, we were trying to determine, can you look down the barrel from 5 feet, from 10 feet, from whatever distance, and see a bullet in the chamber if a gun is pointed directly at you?
And you can't tell us
I can't
what
tell
the
you. I
answer
can't tell
is?
you what the answer is right now, but I will. I will
Dun,
later
dun,
on. So you'd have to stay tuned for the different shows. But
Stay tuned.
so stay tuned. I got to turn this. I got to turn my phone down because it's people are texting me right now.
You're a big deal.
Anyway, Utah Shooting Sports Council. Yeah, we'll deal with those stuff. We also lobby for good gun bills.
Yep.
We lobby against bad gun bills. We lobby. Anyway, you can get a hold of us at utahshootingsportscouncil.org, utahshootingsportscouncil.org. And if you forgot, if you want to watch us on YouTube or Facebook, go to Gun Radio Utah. Gun Radio Utah on YouTube. All right. So I happened to be watching, as I was looking for more stories, I saw, is it Dan Crenshaw? It's Dan, right?
Yeah.
I just know he's a representative from Texas. He wears an eye patch. Kind of a cool-looking guy.
Yeah.
Cool-looking dude. And he had made a statement about a week or so ago where it seemed like he was in favor of red flag laws, also known as ERPOs, Extreme Risk Protection Orders, or as we like to call them, gun confiscation laws.
I thought he was a good gun guy. Like, I thought he was all for guns.
For guns and people having guns. That's what we thought, too.
Yeah.
So he now, he posted a video on Facebook or Twitter, or posted a video somewhere on the social interwebs, and said, whoa, back up. Beep, beep, beep. Hang on, folks, because I think he got more than an earful from his constituents and people across the nation saying, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Don't be, falling for that. It's not a fait accompli that we're going to have red flags, but it is if you keep talking like that, Dan. So he says, no. All red flag laws are not the same. And that's kind of what I was hoping he and Trump would say, because I heard Trump say, hey, red flag laws. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do background checks too, blah, blah, blah. So he said, well, and the biggest thing about these gun confiscation laws are obviously due process. Now, if you talk to the courts or if you talk to the hand-wringers, they'll say, oh, no, the courts have already held that it is appropriate due process. Well, yeah, they have. They have held that a petitioner going into a judge and the respondent, the person with the guns, that doesn't even know about it, doesn't know there's a hearing, let alone being there, is due process. Because it's a civil order and it's not a crime. And yes, we are taking your guns and you're on the no-buy list and stuff like that, but it's still due process. Well, I don't know where you come from, but the concept of due process is not met in these ex parte type things.
Right.
And they may say, well, you're not being convicted of a crime and it's only temporary. Oh, so if you really were in a bad way and needed a gun, you're only temporarily without a firearm.
Yeah, just for like a
week or two. You're just temporarily. And then if you want to get them back, you just have to go to the judge.
And prove you're not crazy.
And prove you're not crazy. And Casey, I don't know. If you went to a judge right now, could you prove?
No, I'm pretty crazy.
I didn't know you'd want to call me as a character witness. But anyway.
I've been thinking about red flag laws and you, because what if your mother-in-law calls the popo and they show up at our door? It's bye-bye Clark Potion's gun collection.
Why are you laughing? So, anyway.
Because it's a possibility.
Yeah. She told me to yell at Congressman Chris Stewart.
Yeah, we called him a dork.
but we didn't actually. So anyway, Chris Stewart actually said that maybe some red flag laws are okay, and I said okay, thanks, Brad. Let's see. I'm just reading that. Okay, good. We'll take. Is it Marshall? Marshall?
Marshall.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll get to Marshall in just a sec. All right, Michelle. Okay. All right, that's.
You need glasses, don't you?
No, I don't. I can see what is written just perfectly. So anyway. Yeah, where was
you were talking about Chris Stewart and red flag laws.
And so Chris said, so I grabbed him. I was on a panel for suicide prevention out in Richfield this last week. And Chris Stewart was there, so he was fair game. So I had to chat with him, and I said, hey, red flag laws, come on, representative. Tell us your thoughts. Well, only if there's we're gonna include a penalty for false swearing, which means if the petitioner lies in order to get the protective order, then they're in trouble. But so my biggest problems with that is the evidentiary standard. You've heard me talk about the evidentiary standard. What is that requirement for fighting against running a red light? Thank you, Brad. Or a civil case or a criminal case where you can not just, a fine, but you can have your liberty taken away. You can be put in jail or prison.
Oh.
So there's different evidentiary standards. Well, let's pick the lowest evidentiary standard out there, which is the same standard, by the way, if you sue somebody in civil court because they hit your car or damaged your property or something, you only have to convince the judge that you're 51% right and they're 49% wrong, and you win. You win the entire enchilada.
Ooh.
Okay?
There's
Only
enchiladas?
that. That's called a preponderance of the evidence.
Okay.
And that's the same to take away your guns in a red flag law. So, okay, you only have to do that. So they will allow, typically the petitioner is allowed to come up with some nebulous kind of ethereal, in the air kind of reasons as to why, well, they looked at me very weird and they should take their guns away. Well, no, that's not going to fly. Well, no, that they really did look at me weird, and they were looking at a gun magazine at the same time. Oh, well, okay, that you just bumped it over to 51%. Let's yank the guns. So, but let's say they were lying. Let's say they were lying about this, and you want to take them to court because the petitioner lied.
What if you have no money to take them to court?
Well, there's a good point, because you don't actually take them to court. It would be a criminal case this time.
Oh, okay.
So you'd have to convince the district attorney that there was enough evidence to, one, charge them and prosecute them for this false swearing, what we call false swearing on the affidavit. Well, guess what? Those folks, or the DA, if they decide to take the case, which is rare. In protective order cases, it's so rare that the petitioner is ever charged with a crime, even though everybody knows they lied about it sometimes. So, I'll stop smiling. Anyway, so their evidentiary standard that the DA has to rely on to prosecute the false swearer is beyond a reasonable doubt the highest evidentiary standard there is. So that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem fair. And they should be subject to the same, evidentiary standard. So how much time we got there? Let's take how much show me again how much time we have. We have one? Let's do that, and then we'll do this. Okay, cool. Let's bring Michelle on. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Michelle, how are you? Thanks for calling into Gun Radio Utah.
Thanks for having me. I just, we were listening to the Glenn Beck show and Stu, and they were talking about how they have Mothers Against Such Drunk Driving, and now they have this Mothers Against Guns that they're blowing out of control. And I thought, well, what do you do about like mothers like me, mothers for independence, liberty, and freedom? and my husband says, well, that would make you a MILF. A mother.
Yeah, you went there. Okay, yeah.
So
it's true because they figure you are already represented by the Trump people, the MAGA people, by the white racist nationalist group and that out there. And the only answer to that is the Moms Demand Action or the Mothers Against Guns or stuff like that. So
I don't think they realized they wouldn't have even gotten their freedom or to speak without a gun. So it just seems to me that they don't, as we say to one another, I don't think they've thought this through. So it just seems basic common sense is not common.
I think that's the best. I think
party.
your statement is that they haven't thought this through.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's the best statement. That's the statement of the day. They haven't really thought this through, have they? Because when you start talking about evidence, about data, and will it work? Well, let's look at places like, I hate to go back to California, but, they have everything they wanted in gun laws in California. They can pass those things just with, without any problem whatsoever in California. The governor now signs them, and the previous governor had been signing them too. And yet they still have gun crime. Well, that's crazy talk. What are you going to do? In fact, hey, thanks for the call, Michelle. I appreciate that. When we come back, we're going to talk about what does California plan on doing next. Well, that was weird, Brad. It just went. Anyway, that's okay. When we come back on Gun Radio Utah, stay tuned.
All right. So, we have a couple of YouTube.
Hey, YouTube!
Glenn Parshall says, crazy busy in the shop this week. AR lowers.
I saw Glenn on Facebook saying that people are buying a lot of AR-15s and magazines and stuff like that.
Yeah, he says the AR lowers are selling like crazy.
Excellent.
And,
2 minutes.
Sandy Weaver says, are Utah police officers held to the same minimum firearm qualification standards set by the police academy and their respective departments? If an officer fails to qualify, what happens?
They are remediated.
Okay.
Again and again and again. They are remediated, yeah.
Okay.
And each department has a different, there's a general standard out there, but each department is a little different. So I gotta find the sportsman's thing here now.
Okay, I hope that answered your question, Sandy.
But yeah, I have actually had a law enforcement officer come in a few years ago who could not pass the test.
Oh, yeah?
But he had been on the force for 15 years.
Oh, jeez.
But he couldn't pass the test. Well, guess why?
Why?
Well, I mean, it's rather interesting. Maybe I'll talk about this. Because the instructor, the qualifier, was only counting the holes in the target. Okay?
Okay.
Had like 60 rounds to shoot every 6 months or so. And he's counting the holes in the target and assigning a score to each round.
Uh-huh.
He wasn't counting the total number of holes to see if there were actually 60 holes in the target. He was just figuring there were 60 holes in the target, and then, you know, starting with a base score.
Huh.
What he didn't realize, this guy had been missing the target for 15 years. Missing a lot of holes in the targets, which would have disqualified him.
No apologies on this show. Welcome back to Gun Radio Utah with Clark Kaposian on Talk Radio 1059 KNRS. Listen, and you'll know.
Welcome back to Gun Radio Utah. I'm your host, Clark Kaposian. Casey Jane.
Hey.
Doran is on video. And Bill Pedersen is either hiking and or shooting things
Shooting things.
in the high Uintas. And I think that's the way you're supposed to say, the high Uintas.
Why?
Because it sounds a lot better, and who wants to be in the regular Uintas?
In the low Uintas?
Yeah. You know, you're in the high Uintas. So
Hey,
Bill
are you marked safe from knowing about the Clintons?
I am marked safe from knowing any dirt on the Clintons. So
Okay, good.
So should I die?
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Hey, here's a question for. Well, actually, we had a question on YouTube.
Yeah.
That came up.
Let's hear it.
What's the standard on law enforcement, and if they fail to, here in Utah on that? There is a post, Peace Officer Standards and Training. There's guidelines there, but each department generally has a specific requirement or qualification.
Okay.
Now, there's a post qualification that you have to pass, and that is a standard. But when you get your own department, it's a little different. And if you fail to score enough points on your twice a year shooting,
okay,
then typically most departments will remediate you, which means you'll go back, you'll take the test again.
Oh, geez.
And get a little help, and then take the test again. And if you still do it, you'll be remediated until you pass that test.
Oh, geez.
Well, I know I had a law enforcement officer who'd been on the force for 15, 16, 17 years come to me a few years ago. And all of a sudden he said, and he blamed the instructor, his police firearms instructor, and for being too picky or something on the qualification, on the score. But it's the exact same test. It was the same target, 14 by 16 scoring area. Anyway, but what we found out was that the previous firearm instructor, who would then make up his score, was just started with a base score of, say, 300. Okay, and you had to have 80% or 85% of that to pass.
Yeah.
Well, he was just starting with that base score, and then he would take off shots that were outside in the 5 ring or the 6 ring or the 7 ring or something like that, to make it easier. And so this guy had barely been passing, but he had been passing all these years.
Okay.
Well, come to find out, the new instructor actually was scoring his targets correctly by counting the number of holes in the target to start with. This guy had been completely missing his target.
And was still
in
okay
5 or
to
6
work?
shots. Yeah. And like I said last week, hey, every shot for one of my classes is a dead baby. I'm sorry to have to say it like that, but it could in fact be. So and he was not now passing.
Oh, geez.
And the instructor was unable or didn't have time, whatever it was. He ended up in my office.
Ooh.
And I got to tell you, actually, we fixed him in probably 15, 20 minutes.
Wow.
And he's probably one of the best shooters now in that department because, in fact, I think he scored a 98 or 99% on the exact same test.
Excellent.
Than when we took him there. So let's talk about, let's take Rick real quick. Brad, let's bring Rick on. You on that?
Hello?
Rick, are you there? You out of West Jordan? What is this about?
I'm here.
Old guns,
Well,
new
I
guns?
heard. Yeah. Well, here's the question. I in my early 20s. That was about 50 years ago, so that tells you how old I am now. But I had
Hold
a friend.
on, I'm doing the figuring right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Let me know when you come up with the answer.
Yeah, I've got it pretty close. I've got a few options. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, back then I had a friend come up to me and he says, I know this guy, and he has invented this gun, and you just got to see it. And the guy that invented this gun was a friend of my friend, and his name was Dick Kasul.
Oh.
And so
yeah, I know this.
I went to this where he was going to demonstrate it. He wasn't going to fire it, but he was just going to show it. And I saw it, and I held it. But the thing about this gun, it was a rifle, but it was a .22 caliber, and it had a revolving turret on the top, and it held 1,000 rounds of $22s.
Wow.
I know this gun. Yeah,
yes,
I know this
and that's
gun.
my question, because here's the thing. Now, back then, 50 years ago, $1,000 was a lot of money. And that's what he wanted for that gun. And if I would have had $1,000 back then, it's probably like $10,000 now. But I would have bought it. But
I'm trying to remember. Was it the 180? Now it escapes me. It wasn't the AR 180. What was it? What was the name of that gun? Why can't I remember it now? It's made in Utah.
That's what I can't remember. I can just remember seeing it and holding it.
Glenn will know if Glenn's listening. Glenn, tell me on YouTube what that is. But it's a 22 full auto. I think it had a cycle rate of about 1,200 rounds a minute. Ooh. Here's a little bit of trivia.
Exactly.
Guess what agency used those in Utah?
Well,
American. I knew it was the A something. American what? American 180. It's called the American 180. What agency used those in Utah?
I don't know.
Corrections. The corrections department, and they had this big laser. They had this big red laser that was the size of a what's this big anyway? It's this the size of a VHS tape, so to speak. Not the exact same. Doran just came up with that one. So anyways, yeah, huge laser on this thing. What? And they had them in full auto, and you described it perfectly. Yeah, they had that big magazine that sat on the top and went around. You can still find them.
Here's the thing. Yeah, I was wondering, I forgot about the gun, but every once in a while I kept hearing rumors about this gun out there that the police had. And I heard that the mafia wanted to get their hands on it. Ooh. And when I went there, a lot of people didn't really appreciate what that gun could really do because it was only a .22 caliber. But it shot out so fast that it virtually destroyed everything, even though it was only .22.
You could literally write your name on a target with this thing in cursive. So
exactly.
I mean, at 1,300 rounds a minute, that's almost double what a M16 or an M4 will do. But hey, we've got to run. I've got to do a quick promo here. Anything else, Rick?
No, that's it. You might want to go into. I was wondering what happened with all Oliver North and how come he had to leave the NRA or leave his position? Maybe you could go into that later.
That's a bigger thing than 3 minutes worth, but I will. But you know what? It's worth it. Hey, Rick, thanks for the call. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
This segment, by the way, has been brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse. Now that sounded different all of a sudden, but anyway.
It does sound different, but now it's good.
But now it's good? Okay. Thanks, Brad. All right. So this segment has been brought to you by the Gunsmith at Sportsman's Warehouse. That's right. Sportsman's Warehouse, 95 locations in the United States. Not just the Continental, but Alaska, too.
Oh, good.
I don't know about Hawaii, but anyway. 95 locations. You know, if you've got a gun that you want Cerakoted or fixed because you broke it, and you touched it. I told you not to touch it, and you broke it.
Well, I'm going to make it pink while it gets fixed,
So you could get it Cerakoted. You could have sights put on. You could have, you name it. Old guns, new guns.
Good, I'll take your guns over.
Stop it right now. So you can take your gun into Sportsman's Warehouse, and they will get it over to the gunsmith at Sportsman's Warehouse. Or if you want to just take it right to them, it's at 1630 South. 5070 West, Suite 200. It's a great big huge building, and I'll just give you a clue. Go to the west corner of the building because it's one huge building with one address. But anyway, so that's in Salt Lake City. You can give them a call at 800-761-1252. 800-761-1252. And I've seen the machines they have there. They can do pretty much, they could build a gun from scratch, without a doubt. They could obviously do rebarreling, rechambering. They can fix.
They do engraving?
They can fix, and they do engraving. They can fix what you broke. They can Cerakote. They can do all sorts of stuff.
Cool.
So, anyways, check it out. The gun, or if you want to go to the website, sportsmans.com/gunsmith, we'll get you there, among other things. Sportsmans.com/gunsmith. All right, when we come back, we've got lots more to talk about. Stay tuned. For more information.
All right, what else? Glenn says that gun was brought into the country by Gene DeFlorentes from Bullet and Blade Gun Shop. And he says it was fun to cut down telephone poles with.
But I thought it was manufactured here in Utah. It wasn't manufactured in Utah? I still think it was. I'm going to go with it was until Glenn tells me differently. But you used to be able to pick them up for $8,000 full auto. Now they're probably $15,000 to $18,000. I don't know. Ask Glenn. What are the NFA? What are the transferable American 180s going for now? I'm going to guess $15,000 to $18,000.
Ooh.
So let's get some.
Okay.
It says made in Utah, designed in Austria.
Oh.
That's cool. Did you see the picture of the?
Oh, Glenn says 35 to 40,000.
Oh, what?
Oh man!
You can only have two then.
And do you have? Is somebody making magazines for them? Glenn, is anybody making reliable magazines for those? Because I know that's the key thing on those guns is having a good magazine. Oh.
Did you read it?
He says the last one I saw
about the American 180. Okay, American 180.
Yeah, he says the last one I saw sold for $25 a few years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, got about a minute and a half, it looks like, from my end. Okay.
Visitor for Mr. Epstein.
Minute and a half. Minute and a half. Where's my beef jerky? Oh, did you want to, or are we doing an extra hour or not?
We
I
can.
I do have a headache, though, I'll tell you.
You've always had a headache.
I know, I was telling Dorn about it. I was
Like-
wondering if it may be my new,
Brain tumor.
yeah.
What? What was the?
I was just.
The brain pill?
Over the beef stick.
You
Oh,
want one?
Sure.
he loves beef sticks.
Tasty beef stick?
No, thank you. Well, okay, yeah, I will. Yeah.
Beef stick? Hold on, let me put it in my pocket for a little bit.
Could you warm it up?
Our grandma always had beef sticks in the fridge
Really? In the fridge?
And A&W root beer.
and A&W root beer.
Or was it Hires? It was A&W, wasn't
It
it?
was good root beer. regardless.
Fanta and... Did we already talk about...
News around the country and Utah on firearms. It's Gun Radio Utah. No apologies. On Talk Radio 1059, KNRS. Listen and you'll know. Your host, Clark Kaposian.
Where's the, oh, now I found it. Yeah, Michelle had said they were talking about, all the gun laws that they've already had. And we were talking a little bit about red flags. We talk a lot about red flags. And
I like Michelle. I want to be a MILF, a mother for liberties. What was it?
And freedom.
And freedom, yeah.
Okay, Casey. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Gun Radio Utah. I'm your host, Clark Kaposian. That was Casey.
That's me.
Casey Jane. So, California, as if they don't have strict enough gun laws, are realizing they still have gun crime. They still have crazy people running around.
That's interesting.
So that's obviously, as they figure, we need more gun laws. Because the existing gun laws aren't working, and we're not enforcing them anyway. So
let's make more.
So let's make more that we won't enforce. And by some random kind of
criminals will follow
situation,
the law.
They maybe will do that. So right now, it's law enforcement and family members can be the petitioner to take away someone's guns. And they go to the judge and tell the judge this person is dangerous. And that is the tool they use to, in their words, combat gun violence. And there's an article at NBCBayArea.com this last week. But what they failed to say is that, and if you can't prove you're not a danger, you're still dangerous. It's kind of like, we have a standard, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Uh-huh.
Well, in this case, you're dangerous until you can prove that you're not dangerous.
But then you're still dangerous?
Well, no, if you can somehow prove the negative. So anyway, and then when they say prove, they're being a little fast and loose with the whole word prove. Because for you and I, when we say prove, we're thinking you're going to take away somebody's listed right to have a firearm.
Okay.
You better come packing a lunch and be prepared to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. No, as we talked about before, prove in this case just means you convinced the judge 51% that the person's dangerous. So go on now. What do they want to do? So they want to increase it beyond police and family members to friends, teachers, and coworkers.
Oh, cool. So I could call up the law enforcement and as a teacher, I could be like, I'm worried about Timmy's dad.
Yeah. Or Timmy, maybe.
Or Timmy,
and
yeah.
And if Timmy can't own guns, you can take the guns away from his dad, even though his dad may be perfectly fine. As we saw that in Ohio or Iowa, one of the 16, 17 states that has a red flag law right now. So they cited a Santa Clara County gun owner type situation, okay, in Santa Clara County, which is in California, which is just by San Jose area.
Okay.
Anyway. So they said in this NBCBayArea.com story, they said they've had gun owners who have had their weapons removed via a red flag law this year include an employee who threatened a human resource manager with a gun, a landlord who threatened his tenant, and a resident who pulled a shotgun on his neighbors for making too much noise. Okay, so my point is this. If you are relying on a red flag law to stop these people, to curtail this kind of behavior, then your existing laws suck. Because if somebody is pulling a gun on their neighbors because they're making too much noise, and the only thing that you can turn to is, thank God we had a red flag law. Okay? And so this is the exact kind of thing that Representative Cory Malloy, fantastic defender of freedom and that, what he wrote in last year's HJR, House Joint Resolution 7 in the Utah legislature,
Okay.
And it listed all of our existing laws, and among them, 7610-507, for those of you that are following along on your laptop, 7610-507 says that you threaten somebody and you have a gun, it's a crime. Bam, right there. You don't need a red flag law. We've got it existing in statute, among other things. You know, and ask your local police officer. Do they have, or are they so bereft of ability to stop someone who's being crazy, even though they may have not committed a crime? It's called a pink slip or even a blue slip. And yeah, they can take those people and put them, although it does defy due process there again, but put them, if they have exhibited behavior, in a place to get them help. Let's say this. And while they're in that place of getting them help, they can't have guns there either.
Oh, that's good.
So anyway, so we have existing laws, but that's a problem. Now, what's another problem with red flag laws? Among the many things that we've talked about, they may in fact stop people from seeking actual mental health care, because they would be afraid that even though 96% of all people with mental illness are never going to hurt themselves, or let alone anybody else.
Right.
But they'd still be afraid of being stigmatized or being targeted. You know, if they get a prescription for some mood-enhancing type medicine, bam, they're going to be on the no-fly list maybe, or that might be just enough to push it over to that 51% for the petitioners to do that. So anyway, that is just a little bit more. Hey, we had, is John still on? John, are you still on? You still on there?
Yep.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes,
Hey, thanks for calling into Gun Radio Utah. You had some info on the American 180.
I just heard that they went out of business because they didn't follow Old Man Casul's tolerances, and it didn't work very good. But
really?
But I heard from somebody who worked out the penitentiary that they were still using those things because it cooled people's passions right off.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that they are still using them in?
I don't. Well, this was like 20 years ago.
Oh, so, okay. I think they were maybe using them 20 years ago, but they were neat. They were neat little guns. They kind of had a look like a stock and a foregrip like a Thompson submachine gun. Only shooting 22 with that big round drum, like the size of a plate, only much thicker.
Yeah, like a cross between a Lewis gun and a Thompson.
Yeah, and sitting right on the top over the action, and you let those things go so fast. Yeah, really fast.
Yeah.
So
up to 1,800 rounds a minute.
And for those of you that don't know the name Dick Casul, he was the one, among many other things. He was the one that designed the gun and the ammunition for the 454 Casul.
Casul, yeah.
That is one super powerful. You think the 44 mag is powerful? No, this thing, and it was an actual true 45 caliber too. So not as is the 44 mag.
I got to shoot one.
You do? Oh yeah.
I did. Well, 20 years ago again.
I shot one more recently, and I remember it being extremely spanky, extremely snappy, if you will. It was out of a single-action American Arms, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, John, thanks for that info. That's very interesting on the American 180.
As far as President Trump, I called the White House and said I can, in good conscience, vote for President Trump again if he does not support the Constitution, specifically the Second Amendment.
Well,
I'll cast my vote for.
Do you think, John?
Party.
Do you think it's a fait accompli at this point? Do you think we are going to get it? You don't think so?
I think he's run up that flag up the flagpole and see what the numbers tumble out.
Okay.
See how many people saluting, because they are really snowed under on the White House comment line. It took me 26 minutes the last time I got through.
Well, We'll have to see. Wow, no kidding. Well, good for you for doing that, John. Appreciate it. Appreciate you listening to Gun Radio Utah. All right, really quick before we go, Brad, how much time do we have left? Or am I overtime? Is that what do you think? Oh, really? I've got enough time. So, Casey Jane.
Yes, sir.
Question for you.
Okay.
of all the, let's take the 27. Did we already talk about this?
No.
Are you sure? Okay,
I'm sure.
good. Okay, take the 27 deadliest mass shooters.
Okay.
Okay, resulting in the highest number of people killed or injured.
Okay.
Of the 27 deadliest, what did 26 of them have in common?
They're illegals?
No.
They got the guns illegally?
No. Okay, your guessing time is up now.
Male? They're all male.
I don't know about that, but I can tell you
They're
this.
all white males.
Would you just
You asked.
zip it here? You could just see that little. Okay, right there. So, anyway, no, they did not have fathers.
Oh, wow.
In the family.
Oh.
They came from a family without fathers. So not just a one-parent family. They had just a mom.
Yeah.
And no dad. 26 out of 27. So a lot of times what we're trying to find is this common denominator. What made these people snap? What made them, were they always like this? Then they just, got a gun. Is it video games?
Yeah.
Is it mental illness? Is it, well, I'm going to tell you, that's, I mean, if even 3/4 of them were without a father, that would be something. But this is huge. This is 27ths.
Wow. Yeah.
So to speak. So that's a huge number, and I think it definitely could be looked
plays
at.
an effect on kids.
So when we come back, we're going to wrap things up on Gun Radio Utah. Stay tuned. We'll even take your phone calls at 888-570-8010.
I hate this commercial.
What is it?
That commercial playing right now.
All right, here's a picture of the American 180.
Oh, I want
going
to
up on
see.
YouTube.
Did I describe it?
So I slightly miscounted, but we go to 5720.
We're going to 5720?
Yeah, once we get back on, but that'll leave about 8 minutes.
8? Okay,
You
good.
know,
Thanks.
it looks like a rifle with a slide projector.
That's actually a very good description of it. Oh, we need to ask him if he'll do Trump. Yeah, but we see how it's kind of got a Thompson look to it. And that, yeah.
So I'm surprised you don't have one.
Maybe if they hadn't been so dang expensive. And
Well, 50
I
years
could have
ago
bought
you
one.
could have bought one.
I could have bought one, but the magazines aren't reliable. So maybe they have new magazines now, but
Well, now you're just out of luck.
no, I can still buy one.
You can't afford it. You have a wife who needs her anti-crazy pills. You called me crazy earlier. Okay, 1 minute.
1 minute?
1 minute.
Un momento, por favor.
You got to talk about the bedwetters moving to Mexico.
Oh
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Are we doing Trump or not Trump? No Trump? It's okay if you can. It's okay. Hey, that's me. That's me. That's me that's talking.
Why do you sound so official and like serious? Just mail it in.
Because I am the Clark of Potion.
Yeah, you sound so serious. Why so serious?
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself.
Apology is a word not allowed on this show. Clark Potion is back with Gun Radio Utah on Talk Radio 1059. KNRS. Listen, and you'll know.
So we were talking about hand-wringing bedwetters. We were talking about those people that were just so triggered, so just distraught that if Donald Trump won the presidency,
Again.
they were going to pack up their U-Haul and go north to Canada.
To Canada.
So my question is, why are they going to Canada? Why aren't they packing up and going south to Mexico?
Ooh, you know, Mexico's beautiful. We went to Mexico on our honeymoon, and
but
I could
why?
live there.
Why aren't they going? Because it was
don't know.
almost without exception. I'm moving to Canada if Donald Trump wins. That's
yeah,
what
that
was
was
the
like
statement.
Kanye. Yeah, Kanye was going to do that.
Oh, Kanye. Anyway,
I bring that up in honor of my little brother.
Yeah, your little brother Spud.
Spud. He's a little obsessed with Kanye.
Yeah, he is. He has a
There's
he has a
Kanye.
bromance going on over
Have
there.
you seen my condo lately? There's Kanye pictures all over my condo.
I don't want to see that. Anyway, you know, and I have to stay there during the legislative session too. So coming up. All right. Anyway, so I just find it interesting.
Yeah.
And somewhat very racist that they would move to mostly white Canada.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
So all right, talk about. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So, you know, we talked about are violent video games causing mass homicides. Well,
no.
There hasn't, you know, I am willing to go either way on these things, but the data does not show it. The data just doesn't show it. The U.S. Supreme Court actually, after hearing both sides or all sides in 2011, said that, you know, given the scientific studies, had failed to link violent video games to serious aggression in kids.
Interesting.
Now, I'm not an expert on this. I don't study the violent video games or whatever we got, but I would like to hear more. But so far, not just that, but the American Psychological Association, who I've never been a huge fan of anyway. I think they're all crazy up there. Anyway, said the same thing along with some other studies. So, because we all want to know what causes this.
Yeah.
Why did you go shoot up the mall?
I have my own opinion.
All right. Well, I want to hear it. Maybe later.
Okay.
Anyway.
In about 20 minutes, you'll hear it.
Are mass shooters white supremacists, male white supremacists?
They would like you to believe they are.
Well, that's certainly been the narrative. In fact, on KUTV, if you watch that clip from KUTV, 6 o'clock, I don't know what day it was. It was this week that I was on. I was on with a big panel of I was on with a panel of 5 people: a police officer, somebody with Mothers Moms Demand Action, and then
the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition.
Yeah, Utah. Jen Oxborough was there,
and then a student from
Liz. Yeah, Liz. Who was on her best behavior, but still called out white supremacy. Who still called out white supremacy in the episode for the brunt of this. Well, you know what? Let's go to the data. Let's go to the data, and we find that if they're now. They're the ones that bring up this, 260 some odd mass shootings this year and so on and so forth. So if they're going to bring up that number, well, we get to use all of that data.
Sure.
Okay, not just the ones that we hear about on the news in Walmart and in Gilroy, California and that. So if you look at that, the ethnic composition of all the mass shooters is equivalent to the American population. It's the same cross-section. So that kind of throws a big wrench in the whole white supremacist kind of thing. Oopsies. So anyway,
I choose not to believe that.
You choose not to believe that? Well, that is your right. But so there you go. You got that going for you, don't you? All right. And then they talk about mental illness. They talk about these homicides are becoming more frequent. We have an epidemic of gun violence. Even though, let's go to the data, we actually are at a 40-year low, actually 41-year low
Shut the front
in
door.
violent crime and gun crime.
No.
Both 40 and 41 years, respectively. I don't remember which is which. But anyway, and mass shootings, are there more mass shootings than there were 25 years ago?
Yeah.
Nope, it's about the same. So now this is odd. Even though, and I'm pointing at you with
with your beef stick.
Yeah, so is that, for those on YouTube, can you hear this out? Now, this is what is a little strange in that gun crime has dropped to a 40-year low.
Right.
But by using the definition we're using now of mass shooting, or 4 more people are hurt or killed in one incident, and is that it's actually stayed the same, but it hasn't gone up. It hasn't gone down, though, either. And so now we're left with, I remember, so on channel, no, actually it'll be on Fox 13 this Sunday on I guess their 9 o'clock news or whatever. Thank you very much, Brad. They taped a segment, Bob Evans taped a segment with me called 3 Questions.
Okay.
Only that's an interesting, because he asked a lot more than 3 questions.
He has like 30.
And then they put the answers to 3 of the questions on there.
So
but
you're
he has like
hoping they're
300 questions. So anyway, they'll pick the best 3, I guess.
Hope
so. But Bob says to me, he says, so we've got these questions, blah, 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 blah.
Blah,
and
blah, blah.
I am the, he didn't say this, but I'm basically supposedly the apologist for gun owners. Maybe for bad gun
You
owners. I
are?
don't know. Well, he didn't say that, but apparently I have the answer. And so he said, Clark, what's the solution? What is the solution?
Yeah.
As if I had been waiting for someone to ask me the question and I have the answer to this. It's like, I was waiting for somebody to ask because I alone, Clark Potion, have the answer to the solution to all these.
You need a PhD, and then you would sound credible in whatever you said.
Well, thank you. All right. So, that I, at least I can admit, though, that I don't have the answers to stop all the crazies in the world, in this country, and in this state. I don't have the answers, but I'm also not going to fill your head with a bunch of mush and say the answer is ban assault rifles, whatever those are, universal background checks, magazine restrictions, waiting periods, and red flag laws.
That all just sounds like a bunch of hooey.
Well, they have those in other states. It doesn't seem to help them. So Anyway, if you want to stay on top of this stuff, go to UtahShootingSportsCouncil.org, UtahShootingSportsCouncil.org. You can send an email, and I've got to get my email, but they will tell me when I get an email.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Yeah, they do. Bill and Randall and Brent and Bill.
I was going to
Bill.
say there's 2 bills.
Yeah, there's 2 bills. So they will tell us when we get that. So, but sign up to get our alerts. The legislative session, we've got one coming up. A little interim session next week, I think it is.
Okay.
3rd Wednesday. So we've got lots to talk about. Thanks for listening to Gun Radio Utah. Casey, say goodbye.
Toodaloo!
Toodaloo to you, too.
Good chat in YouTube about the whole police recertification stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, I didn't get a chance to tell the story about how the guy missed his shots, though, did I?
Well, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I did?
You fixed him.
You fixed it within 15, 20 minutes. He was hitting 98%.
Yeah.
He was doing actually very, very well.
Yeah, you talked about it.
Then he retired.
You're losing your mind, aren't you?
I've had